The city of Rome began as a small settlement along the Tiber River and gradually developed into a powerful republic through centuries of social, political, and military evolution. Archaeological evidence from the Palatine and Capitoline Hills reveals occupation dating back to the 10th century BCE, with ceramic fragments and post holes indicating Iron Age hut settlements. According to stratigraphic analysis conducted by the University of Rome's Archaeology Department, Carandini, 2011, these early communities consisted of pastoral and agricultural groups who exploited the strategic position along the Tiber's navigable waters. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials from the earliest layers suggests continuous habitation from approximately 1000 to 900 BCE, coinciding with the broader Villanovan culture of central Italy. The traditional founding date of 753 BCE, attributed to Romulus in Roman mythology, likely represents a later historical memory of urban consolidation rather than initial settlement. Most researchers agree that what we call Rome emerged gradually from the coalescence of several Latin and Sabine villages occupying the Seven Hills. Excavations directed by Andrea Carandini between 1985 and 2005 uncovered defensive walls and a ceremonial boundary, pomerium, on the Palatine Hill dating to the mid-8th century BCE, suggesting organized community planning. These findings, published in the Journal of Roman Archaeology, indicate that Rome transitioned from scattered pastoral settlements to a proto-urban center during this period. The presence of imported Greek pottery from this era demonstrates early trade connections with Mediterranean communities. The geographic advantages of Rome's location, defensible hills, fresh water access, proximity to salt deposits at the Tiber mouth, and position along north-south Italian trade routes provided the foundation for sustained growth. Some historians debate whether Rome's rise was inevitable given these advantages, or whether social and political innovations were equally crucial to its development. If you're finding this exploration of Rome's origins fascinating, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone interested in ancient history. Your support helps us continue creating educational content like this. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Rome's early development.
The environmental context of early Rome profoundly influenced its trajectory from village to republic. Geological surveys and sediment core analysis conducted by the British School at Rome reveal that the Tiber River Valley during the early Iron Age was marshy and flood-prone, particularly in the low-lying areas between the hills. The Forum Boarium and later the Forum Romanum occupied valleys that required drainage engineering before permanent settlement could expand. According to palynological studies, analysis of ancient pollen deposits published by Hopkins 2016 in the Journal of Mediterranean Archaeology, the landscape surrounding early Rome was characterized by mixed oak forests with cleared areas for agriculture and pasture. The Seven Hills, Palatine, Aventine, Capitoline, Quirinal, Viminal, Esquiline, and Caelian, rose above the floodplain, providing naturally defensible positions for early communities. The volcanic soil of the region, particularly the tufa stone easily quarried from nearby deposits, provided essential building materials. Archaeological evidence shows that by the 7th century BCE, Romans were extracting and shaping tufa for defensive walls and public structures, replacing earlier timber and thatch construction. The transition to stone architecture marks a significant development in Rome's urban character. Climate reconstruction based on dendrochronology and isotope analysis indicates that the Mediterranean climate of this period was similar to today's, with hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters conducive to grain cultivation, viticulture, and olive production. The Tiber's navigability allowed connection to coastal settlements at Ostia, facilitating salt trade and maritime commerce with Greek and Phoenician traders. The strategic position at a river crossing where the north-south routes at Italy intersected east-west pathways made Rome a natural commercial hub. Some researchers argue that control of this crossing point was fundamental to Rome's early political development, as communities competed for toll rights and market access. The environment did not determine Rome's fate, but it certainly shaped the possibilities available to its early inhabitants. The transition from village councils to monarchical governance represents a crucial phase in Rome's political evolution. According to Roman historical tradition preserved by Livy and Dionysius of Halicarnassus, writing centuries after the events, Rome was ruled by 7 kings between 753 and 509 BCE. While these accounts contain legendary elements, archaeological evidence supports the existence of centralized authority during the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. Comparative analysis with other contemporary Italic communities, conducted by Cornell, 1995, in The Beginnings of Rome, suggests that early Roman kingship resembled the magistracies of other Latin city-states. The king, rex, likely served as military commander, chief priest, and judge, with power balanced by a council of elders, the Senate, and popular assemblies of armed citizens. The Etruscan influence on Rome's regal period is well documented archaeologically. The Tarquinian dynasty, traditionally the last 3 kings, introduced Etruscan engineering, religious practices, and political concepts. Excavations of the Regia in the Forum, conducted by Brown University archaeologists, revealed 6th century BCE structures consistent with royal or ceremonial buildings, including votive deposits and imported Etruscan pottery. The construction of the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great drainage system during the reign of Tarquinius Priscus, traditionally 616 to 579 BCE, represents significant public works requiring organized labor and central planning. Engineering analysis, published in Ancient Technology Journal, demonstrates that this project transformed the marshy Forum Valley into usable urban space, enabling population concentration and market activities. Most historians acknowledge that the specific dates and biographical details of the 7 kings are unreliable, likely representing compressed or elaborated genealogies. However, the general pattern of monarchical government transitioning to republican institutions appears grounded in historical reality. The archaeological record shows increasing social stratification, monumental architecture, and administrative complexity during the 6th century BCE, consistent with centralized political authority. The transition from monarchy to republic around 509 BCE, whether through revolution, coup, or gradual evolution, remains debated among scholars. What is clear is that this political transformation fundamentally altered Rome's governance structure and set the foundation for its expansion. The social organization of early Rome reflected both indigenous Latin traditions and external influences, particularly from Etruscan and Greek civilizations. Archaeological evidence from burial practices, analyzed by the American Academy in Rome, reveals clear social stratification by the 7th century BCE. Elite graves contain imported Greek pottery, bronze armor, and precious metals, while common burials show simpler pottery and fewer grave goods. The patrician-plebeian division, fundamental to later Roman politics, has roots in this early period. According to scholarly consensus, the patricians were descendants of the original Senate families who claimed exclusive rights to political and religious offices. The plebeians, the majority of citizens, were excluded from these privileges, creating social tensions that would shape republican politics for centuries. The gens system, extended kinship groups claiming descent from common ancestors, formed the basic social unit. Each gens had its own religious rights, burial grounds, and collective identity. Research by Smith, 2006, in Classical Quarterly, demonstrates that these familial structures persisted throughout Roman history, influencing political alliances and social obligations. Religious practices in early Rome centered on household gods, Lares and Penates, agricultural deities, and communal festivals. The adoption of the Capitoline triad, Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, reflects Etruscan religious influence during the regal period. The construction of the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Palatine Hill, traditionally completed in 509 BCE, marks Rome's emergence as a significant religious center. Evidence from foundation deposits and ritual boundaries suggests that Romans practiced elaborate ceremonies when constructing buildings and defining urban space. These religious practices, documented in classical texts and confirmed archaeologically, integrated supernatural authority with political and social organization. Women's status in early Rome, while subordinate to male authority, varied by class. Elite women could own property, participate in religious ceremonies as priestesses, and exert informal political influence. Most women, however, were engaged in household textile production, childcare, and agricultural labor, as indicated by loom weights and domestic tools found in archaeological contexts.
Rome's growth from a single settlement to regional power required both military conquest and diplomatic alliance building. The Latin League, a confederation of Latin-speaking communities in Latium, played a crucial role in early Roman expansion. According to epigraphic evidence and literary sources, Rome participated in this league initially as one member among equals, sharing religious festivals and military obligations. The defeat of neighboring communities like Alba Longa, traditionally destroyed by Rome in the mid-7th century BCE, represents the pattern of absorption that characterized Roman expansion. While specific battle accounts contain legendary elements, archaeological surveys show the abandonment of several Latin hill towns during this period, with populations apparently relocating to Rome and other growing centers. Military organization evolved alongside political structures. The early Roman army, based on hoplite warfare borrowed from Greek practice, required citizens to provide their own arms and armor, creating a direct link between property ownership, military service, and political rights. Research by Secunda, 1996, in the Journal of Roman Military Equipment Studies demonstrates that 6th century BCE military equipment found in Latium closely resembles Greek and Etruscan models. The Servian constitution, attributed to King Servius Tullius, traditionally 578 to 535 BCE, reorganized Rome's military and political structure based on wealth classes rather than kinship groups. This reform, described by classical sources and supported by comparative evidence from other Italic communities, enabled more effective mobilization of military resources and broadened political participation beyond the patrician elite. Rome's conflicts with the Etruscans to the north, including the legendary war with Veii, established Roman dominance in southern Etruria by the early 4th century BCE. The siege and destruction of Veii, traditionally 396 BCE, doubled Roman territory and demonstrated Rome's capacity for sustained military campaigns. Archaeological excavations at Veii confirm its abandonment and Roman annexation during this period. Some historians debate whether Rome's expansion was driven by defensive necessity, economic ambition, or cultural imperative. The evidence suggests multiple motivations operating simultaneously, with security concerns, desire for agricultural land, and competition for prestige among elite families, all contributing to aggressive foreign policy.
The establishment of the Roman Republic around 509 BCE marks one of history's most significant political transformations. Traditional accounts describe the expulsion of the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, following the rape of Lucretia by his son, leading to a revolt by patrician families who abolished the monarchy and instituted consular government. While the specific narrative contains dramatic and possibly fictional elements, the broader political revolution appears historically grounded. The Republican Constitution replaced the king with 2 annually elected consuls who held imperium, executive and military authority, but checked each other's power through mutual veto. According to Livy's account, and confirmed by later constitutional practice, this dual magistracy prevented the concentration of power that characterized monarchy. The first consuls, traditionally Lucius Junius Brutus and Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus, established precedents that endured for 5 centuries. Archaeological evidence supports significant political change during this period.
The regia, the king's residence, was converted to religious use, and no new monarchical buildings were constructed. Instead, public works focused on temples, defensive walls, and civic infrastructure controlled by magistrates and the Senate. The Temple of Saturn, traditionally founded in 498 BCE, served as the state treasury, symbolizing collective rather than royal ownership of public wealth. The early republic faced immediate challenges, including Etruscan attempts at restoration, Latin revolts, and internal class conflict. The conflict of the orders, the struggle between patricians and plebeians for political rights, dominated the first 2 centuries of republican history. Research by Raulab, 2005, in Social Struggles in Archaic Rome demonstrates that plebeian agitation for debt relief, land distribution, and political inclusion drove constitutional evolution. The creation of the tribunate of the plebes, traditionally in 494 BCE, gave plebeians elected representatives with the power to veto senatorial decrees and protect citizens from patrician magistrates. This institution, though initially extra-constitutional, became fundamental to Roman political balance. The 12 Tables, Rome's first written law code, traditionally 451 to 450 BCE, codified legal principles and limited arbitrary patrician authority. The transition to republic did not democratize Roman politics. The Senate, composed of former magistrates from elite families, retained enormous influence over policy and finance. However, the republican system created institutional mechanisms for managing internal conflict and broader political participation than monarchy allowed.
Modern scholarship on Rome's transformation from village to republic has evolved significantly as archaeological methods and theoretical approaches have advanced. The critical historical approach of the 19th and early 20th centuries, which dismissed much of early Roman tradition as invention, has given way to more nuanced evaluation that recognizes both legendary elaboration and historical kernels in ancient sources. Archaeological discoveries since the 1980s, particularly Carandini's excavations on the Palatine Hill, have confirmed earlier habitation and 8th century BCE fortification, lending credibility to aspects of traditional chronology previously dismissed. However, debate continues regarding the reliability of specific dates, events, and biographical details preserved in literary sources written centuries after the events they describe. The question of Etruscan influence remains contentious among scholars. Some researchers, following Palatino's work, emphasize profound Etruscan contributions to Roman religion, engineering, and political organization during the 6th century BCE. Others, including Cornell and Smith, argue for greater continuity with indigenous Latin traditions and warn against overstating external influence. The archaeological record shows clear cultural exchange, but does not resolve questions of political domination or cultural identity. Recent comparative studies examine Rome within the broader context of early Mediterranean urbanization. Research by Terranato, 2019, in Journal of Roman Studies, analyzes Rome alongside contemporary developments in Etruria, Campania, and Greek Italy, revealing common patterns of centralization, elite competition, and institutional innovation. This comparative approach suggests that Rome's trajectory, while unique in its ultimate success, shared characteristics with other archaic Italian city-states. Genetic analysis of ancient DNA from Roman period burials, published by Antonio et al. 2019 in Science, provides new perspectives on population movements and ethnic composition. These studies confirm population diversity in ancient Rome, but are limited by sample size and cannot definitively resolve questions about early migration and settlement patterns. The ongoing scholarly conversation about Rome's origins reflects both the richness of available evidence and its limitations. Future discoveries, new excavations, improved dating techniques, and interdisciplinary approaches combining archaeology, linguistics, and genetics will continue refining our understanding of how a small Tiber settlement became the foundation of one of history's most influential civilizations.